Hello, everyone. It's Anthony Bandiero, attorney for Blue Gold Law Enforcement Training, bringing you another roadside chat. This officer is from Arizona. The officer says a reporting party calls the police and says, "Hey, look, my ex-husband just came by the house, pulled out a gun, pointed at me, my family, threatened me with deadly force type deal. He took off after saying whatever he's going to say, and he is in this particular vehicle. Cops." Quickly, right? See the vehicle. They light it up. Boom, he takes off. He leads them on a chase. Now, nobody has gone to the victim yet. They're busy with trying to stop this guy. They want to know if the officers ended up using a grappling technique, like when they grab the tire, or they use like some kind of pit maneuver. In other words, use some kind of force to stop this guy. Are they liable, right? Or do they need to speak to the victim first? What is the liability? What if things go bad? What if a shooting occurs and so forth? We don't want officers to lose their job or get successfully sued. All right, well, what's the law here? The law is a couple things that are relevant to our discussion. Number one is you are allowed to use force to effectuate a detention. Now, we may not have probable cause here. I don't think we do. We're not going to just once we catch him, hey, you're going right to jail necessarily. But we definitely have reasonable suspicion. And we are allowed to use a reasonable amount of force, not including deadly force, for a detention. Now, of course, if his new crimes he's committing, like felonious flight and reckless driving and so forth, and he's driving in such a manner that he's putting other people at serious risk of death or great bodily harm, then maybe we could use deadly force. Maybe we could use a pit maneuver at 90 miles per hour and send him into the ditch. He becomes a quadriplegic, like what happened in Scott v. Harris, the U.S. Supreme Court case involving similar facts. But regardless, we know we're allowed to use force. If we can't use force to detain, then a detention is really meaningless because people just walk away. The second thing is, are we allowed to presume, not assume, to presume that this victim calling 911 and crying into the phone probably, right, and saying, "Oh my God, you just can't believe what just happened to me," are we allowed to presume that she's telling the truth? And the answer is yes. The law presumes that victims of crimes, witnesses of crimes, are telling you the truth. There is no motive for them to lie, especially on 911, because they can get in trouble for a false report. That case is California versus Navarrete, where the Supreme Court said that when people called 911, recorded line, consequence of reporting a false report on 911 and abuse of 911 systems and so forth, that actually makes them even more reliable, even if they don't want to get involved. Now, this, of course, we have a victim that wants to get involved. And the other thing is, let's look at the reality of the situation. You have this guy who, presumably just flashed a gun, threatened to kill, a family and so forth. The cops what would you invest your resources in, right? To try to find him, detain him, and get some status quo, right? The status quo. All right, let's detain you. Let's find out what the heck is going on here. Now we send somebody to the house and find out what's going on with those victims. Or should we use our resources, especially in smaller towns and so forth? Let's use our resources to invest our resources into actually getting him detained. Should we divide our resources? No, we should not, right? Not necessarily. Now, if you have all the resources in the world, yeah, I guess you want to send somebody down to the house, no problem. If you have plenty of units that can get him into custody, detention, fine. But I'm not saying we don't need to do that. So the other thing is that his flight helps corroborate his crime. Okay, that is actually corroboration. So in other words, if you were just pulled over, then that's what innocent people do, right? Innocent people don't flee from police. When people flee, it's guilty mind behavior. To say that not only is it's a crime in and of itself, but it's also indicative of having guilty conscience, right? So where we're at on this is, I would absolutely, if I was your advisor and we're like, hey, if we can safely get this guy stopped with the grappler And fine. I mean, that's what it's there for, right? It's there to actually prevent him from hurting somebody else. The guy's already fleeing. And if it turns out that the victim was completely lying, making this up, well, we got a consequence for her, right? She's going to get arrested for that, and she's going to be charged. And we'll apologize to the guy we stopped, but first of all, we won't, because he ran. Okay, he ain't getting us sorry. But regardless, it is what it is, right? We're not mind readers. We don't have crystal balls. We don't work in a world of certainty. We work in a world of probabilities. And what level of probability here? It's reasonable suspicion. Okay, so if you obviously are so concerned, about getting fired, getting sued. Well, look, getting sued. Cops get sued all the time, right? Doesn't mean they did anything wrong. As far as getting fired, if you work for a department that's not going to back you up on this, and first of all, what is their policy? I mean, they may have a policy. If they're going to tell you don't chase, then you're not going to chase. And if you do want to chase, go find a department that has a more liberal pursuit policy. But if you're within policy and they fire you, well, that's bad for morale, isn't it? Right? I can't control that, but that's bad for morale. Okay, that's what I have for you, guys. Don't forget, we have our webinars every week, usually on Wednesdays. I do answer questions live. I will tell you that I'm going to be doing more and more answering your questions on the show. Okay, on our live show, I'm going to start pulling back. Just got to tell you the reality here. I'm gonna have to start pulling back on answering questions on emails. The reality is that I am overloaded. Okay, I'm also trying to run a business, raise a family, have some personal time, which I don't get much of. But I just want to let you know that if you want to ask a question of me or my amazing staff, right, other instructors, you're gonna have to jump on the show. Okay, the call-in show, and we're gonna talk about it. All right, my friends. With that, please be safe and make good case law.